We've all been pretty curious about what's next for Lewis Hamilton after losing the title to Max Verstappen 2 years in a row, and his contract ending the next season. Fans started to point toward retirement. Of course, our 7-time world champion isn't ready to give up on F1 just yet, and it seems like neither is his team. In this video, let's take a look at what Wolff has planned for Hamilton's future in F1. First off, we're talking about contract renewal plans here. It turns out that the Mercedes team boss has it all mapped out for his favorite one there. In fact, he's already talking to Hamilton about renewing his F1 contract. But there are also a bunch of expectations involved here, one of which is that he's probably going to be able to beat Tom Brady by extending his career into his 40s. And honestly, we wouldn't mind seeing him battle for another championship and maybe even grab the title. Remember how a few months ago, Daniel Ricciardo got offered a reserve driver role at Mercedes? Well, it was with the hopes that once Hamilton's contract is up by the end of 2023 and he supposedly retires, the Australian could take his place. And it didn't take long for the Briton to set things straight then and there when he confirmed that he was not going anywhere anytime soon, and retirement was entirely out of the question. So as we move on to the upcoming season, which was supposed to be the last year with Mercedes, the 37-year-old is looking into signing a new multi-year contract. That's right, folks. We're probably going to be seeing him for a few more years. And it isn't one-sided. We'll tell you that because Wolff is all the more interested in making a great offer to the 7-time world champion over the winter. Following up, Wolff might finalize everything over the next few months. Now, while we're at it, we'll have you know that by the Mexico City Grand Prix, they confirmed that they hadn't started any talks. Instead, they were planning to finish the season first and get some quiet time to discuss these things over the winter. In fact, it's exactly what they did last time anyway. Plus, the team boss said that Hamilton's more than just a driver to them. And why wouldn't he be? Let's not forget all the races, victories, and so much more that happened over the last few years. And even though they're not talking about any career end here, Wolff thinks it's also important to talk about his role as an ambassador for Mercedes. And let's not forget all the sponsors they've got and the implication he can have in our wider universe. Not to mention, Hamilton wasn't always sure about racing in his 40s. We've heard him say this, and we'll say it again. He's already talked about being skeptical about whether he'd choose to continue racing in F1 by the time he's in his 40s. But it seems like the tables have turned, because now he's set to extend his career. And why wouldn't he? We know he's got his eyes set on the record-breaking 8th World Championship, especially after controversially missing out on the 2021 world title to Red Bull's Max Verstappen. And after the 2-year streak, Hamilton's ready to grab the title in the next season. As for Wolff, he sees absolutely no reason why the Briton can't continue to perform at the highest level, similar to literally any other athlete in their 40s. Let's not forget Fernando Alonso or NFL legend Brady. Athletes are pushing the limits of their ages and giving their all to the sport they've invested years in, and Hamilton's probably going to join the same boat pretty soon. Plus, if he manages to break the record with another world championship, there's absolutely nothing stopping him. Having said that, Wolff thinks Alonso is performing at a pretty high level, but Hamilton's comparison was set with Tom Brady, who, for the team boss, is the best athlete out there on the field, throwing a ball and being tackled at 45 years old. So we guess the point is, you gotta make sure you look after yourself and your cognitive sensors. At least that's what Wolff says. And by that standard, he thinks the 7-time world champion's got a lot more years left in him. Coming up, Hamilton took Alonso back to 2007 after a controversial tweet. If you don't know by now, we're referring to the interview with the Dutch newspaper De Telegraaf that was published recently, and it's the same anywhere Alonso talked about the value of F1 titles, won against drivers of other teams, compared to the ones where you only fight against a teammate. With that said, right after quotes like "all titles are amazing" started to circulate all over the internet, he took to Twitter and tweeted that he was tired of the same continuous search for headlines. In fact, he suggested that F1 fans should probably just stop being pitted against each other on social media. But here's the news. Out of all the responses he got, one of them was from our 7-time world champion, who tweeted a picture of them on the podium together. And this was back in 2007 at Indianapolis, where Lewis beat Alonso. But they weren't from different teams. In fact, they were teammates at McLaren. And the caption to such an ironic picture, just a thumbs up emoji. Honestly, that's enough to say a lot. Going on a trip down nostalgia lane, Hamilton won that race ahead of of Alonso, who literally left fuming at his McLaren team. And it was in the middle of a pretty tense season that ended up with him leaving at the end of the year. As for Hamilton, when he was asked about his reaction to his former teammates' comments, he said he already gave his reaction. "That's my thumbs up." What's more, Hamilton giggled at Alonso's comments as he talked about the tweet. That's right, folks. In fact, he didn't even have to say a lot about it. Instead, he talked about how he's been trying to be respectful over the years, even when he was asked who was the better driver between the two. Plus, he's always praised the Spaniard, so it's definitely interesting for him to see comments like these come up. But does it matter? Maybe not. At least that's what he said, explaining why he put the thumbs up to summarize his reaction to the tweet. Plus, if we're talking about Toto Wolff, he seemed to brush off Alonso's comments as well. Instead, he just said that the two-time world champion was just a teaser, and it was comedy, and he doubted that Hamilton cared, if at all. All in all, the team boss said that stuff like this is exactly what creates the headlines, and F1 is all about those headlines. They're both great champions. And while Alonso likes to throw one in, Hamilton probably isn't even bothered at all. Having said that, right in the middle of these comments, reporters asked Alonso about his comments on Max Verstappen's new win record, and in response, he said he wouldn't talk about anyone else anymore because he feels it always ends up creating misunderstandings every single time. Up next, it's not the first time Alonso has created a controversy. Here's the thing, it's not the first time that the F1 driver came forward with some pretty controversial comments that ended up creating a lot of tension, and we're just talking about this year. Rewind back to their collision on the opening lap of the Belgian Grand Prix in August. The Spaniard called Hamilton an over the team radio, and that wasn't even the end of it. He went on to claim that the 7-time world champion could only race starting first. Now, we'll have you know that he definitely apologized for the comment later on, but does that really make up for it? Especially if you consider that this isn't the first time he's made controversial statements. Probably not. So, all in all, the more he goes after it, the more distant Hamilton wants to be. And let's not forget that the 7-time world champion is at a pretty crucial point in his F1 career. He's got a lot on his plate to focus on right now rather than digging up some controversies. Plus, his reply was more than enough to put an end to this, after all. Finally, Wolff trusts Hamilton to be honest with himself. Well, we're pretty hyped for the 7-time world champion to go for a record-breaking 8th. We also know that there are only a few more years left in him, like any other F1 driver in the past. In fact, Wolff says that the Briton is pretty mature and conscious of where he stands in his career right now. He's keeping his emotions aside and trying to make the best out of it right now. So if at any point he feels like he can't perform the way he should, he's gonna back out immediately. And honestly, that's great to know that he's rational about it, because we've seen athletes going at it forever, even when they should have stopped years ago. That's a wrap for this video. How excited are you about the contract renewal talks between Toto Wolff and Lewis Hamilton? And while we're at it, what was your reaction to Hamilton's response to Alonso's tweet? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.